So we've got quite a few things to cover today in the world of PlayStation. We've got a Bloodborne Rumor. Yes, another one, although this one seems to make a lot more sense, and it's definitely not talking about a Bloodborne remake or remaster or anything like that, but rather a Bloodborne PC port and why it may have been canceled. We also got Final Fantasy XVI, a little update there, and lastly, a Last of Us multiplayer game update as well. Quickly, before we jump into all of that greatness, if you guys can do me a huge favor, like, subscribe, and share the video, it helps the channel a ton. I'll jump into this Bloodborne rumor. So the podcaster known as BaityBait, who has over 160K followers on Twitch, explains what he had heard about the Bloodborne PC port. As a summary of what he says, and it's been translated by PlayStation Lifestyle, he presumptively heard that from an unknown source, Virtuos bungled the PC port of Horizon, and Sony had to bring Guerrilla in to fix it, and in turn, Sony canceled the Bloodborne PC port that was being made by the same studio. Sony, through Guerrilla, apparently subcontracted Virtuos to develop the PC port for Horizon Zero Dawn, because at the time, it didn't have much expertise on how to do this. In time, Guerrilla and Sony were able to fix the Horizon PC port within a few months, and even brought in NIXNE software to help with the game's PC patches in December 2021. And then obviously, as you know, a few months later, they acquired NIXNE. Now, great news is that it doesn't mean that it's out of the question that we could get a PC port down the road. But if this is to be believed, Virtuos definitely did not do a great job on the Horizon port. So it would make sense if they were working on a Bloodborne one, that, yeah, they probably would take that away after what they saw happen with Horizon, because it's a pretty beloved IP and a pretty beloved game that a lot of people are waiting on. So they definitely don't want to mess that up by having a messy port. Now, I look at this from a couple different angles. As we know, obviously, Bloodborne has had rumors about it. Like every week, you can find a new Bloodborne rumor, right? Obviously, if you're very meticulous, you'll pick the right ones to talk about. Like in this case, I feel like this is more likely making sense than other Bloodborne rumors. But it'd be shocking to me if there was no truth behind any of these rumors that have come about. I think Bloodborne obviously is clearly beloved by the fan base, and it's clearly desired by the fan base, and Sony is not oblivious to that. They know that. So I think that they do want to deliver on Bloodborne, but I think they want to go about it in the right way. They want to deliver it the right way to make it feel like a proper experience, especially if they're going to put it on PC. I think they're going to want to deliver it in a proper way so the PC experience doesn't feel watered down or doesn't feel like a bad port like they did with the first Horizon entry. So I think that's really important here, and I think with the team that they have, like NIXNE, to be there to help them, I think that they'll be able to port this game properly. Now, the only other question I would have, and this is speculation, of course, just to be clear, is that Bloodborne could be getting a PS5 version. If they do decide to do that, maybe they want to launch it first on PS5 and then 6 months down the road to a year, launch it on the PC afterwards, which would give them an opportunity to have players double dip, possibly. So I do think that that's another option. And I do think that Sony is looking at that as a viable option. Think about it. They've done it with The Last of Us remake, right? So why wouldn't they do it with Bloodborne? And clearly it's successful for them. So I think that is definitely a thought that they have, and I do think it is a plan that they will likely execute on, but it is speculation, to be clear. But I do think that it's something to keep in mind, because it does make sense in terms of what Sony's been doing lately. And again, Bloodborne is beloved. People want it. Sony's not oblivious to that, and they know that if they do make this game, it's going to make money, especially following the success of Elden Ring and people loving these Souls games more and more as time goes on. Now, next we have a Final Fantasy XVI update. Speaking during an interview with Dengeki Online, Final Fantasy XVI director Hiroshi Takai revealed that the development team were against going open world with the upcoming JRPG in order to match the pace of the game with its narrative. In quotes, and this is translated by Google Translate, so there may be some errors here. I don't want it to be an open world. I want it to be a game that pulls the player through the story, and I want it to be an action RPG that feels good, not an action style RPG. I was thinking I also wanted to raise the rating of FF14, which until now was for players aged 15 and over. So it sounds like, yeah, they didn't want to do an open world game. They wanted to go ahead, do an action RPG, do a wide linear game from the sounds of it, and create an experience that is really driven by its narrative and great gameplay, which I think is a positive thing. And I think we have too many open world games that exist, and a lot of them don't do it well. They pretty much just give you busy work to do in the world. The landscapes are barren. there's not much to do. So I think that it's a great idea that it's going to be more of a linear experience, and it's going to be relying on great action RPG gameplay. It's going to rely on great narrative storytelling, the lore of the world. These are all positive things that I think are going to make the experience better. I also think it's nice to see them not hold themselves back by ratings. They want to create the game that they envisioned, and whether that makes it an M rating or not, which in this case we know it's going to be an M rating, it doesn't really matter, because they're going to tell the story they want, and we're going to get to experience the true story that they wanted to tell without dumbing it down or censoring it. So I think it's a very positive thing. When I read these kind of things from people involved with the project, it makes me happy. It makes me more likely to believe that they are putting a game together that is going to be greatness, because there is nothing holding them back. So I'm very excited to see what goes on with this game. I'm so happy that we are getting it this year. And I also do think we're likely going to get those previews this week as well. So we'll see what happens. Really excited. Can't wait to see more about Final Fantasy XVI. Now, lastly, we have a small The Last of Us multiplayer update, and this comes from Metin Ibrahim, and this is the co-game director on The Last of Us Online project. And they say, quote tweeting, if you remember way back February 25th, one of the developers had talked about how difficult doors were. And the exact quote goes, "I remember when I finished the animation system for The Last of Us 2 combat doors, I thought maybe much, but it's all done now. We have it and we are going to reuse it forever, because like what more one can possibly desire from the damn door, right? Oh boy, was I wrong." And Vinit, he quote tweeted saying, "Working on doors in our current game, and yes, Max Zuravlov was wrong, unfortunately." So yeah, there is way more you can do with the doors apparently, and I hear doors are quite tough to animate as well. I've read that from countless developers, and it's really interesting to read that, because it's like, this is Naughty Dog, man. They're out here stressing over door animations, making things look as realistic as possible, fluid as possible. It's something beautiful when you see the meticulousness from this studio, and I think it's a very positive thing. I think it's amazing when you see the passion that they put into their projects, and that's what makes them one of the greatest studios out there, right? So it's very awesome to see that, and then to see that, hey, we're not happy with this. We're going to go a step further. We're going to go a step further. With each entry, they just keep going further and further to create the greatest game that they've ever created. So I think it's exciting to read something like this. As small as it is, it's exciting to read. I do think that we're likely going to get this game at least shown to us at the showcase that's rumored, right? The showcase that we believe to be coming likely in May, possibly early June, but likely in May. It definitely has to be seen sometime this year, as Neil Druckmann said that we would see it sometime this year. So I think that this is a game that we will see, and I think that we'll likely get a beta sometime this year as well. Maybe a full release if we're lucky, but at least a beta for us to try it out. But that wraps it up for today's video. Please let me know what you guys think of all this. The Bloodborne PC port rumor. Do you think all of that is true? How do you feel about that? What do you think of this Final Fantasy XVI update? And lastly, how do you feel about The Last of Us multiplayer game? Are you excited for it? Are you looking forward to it? Let me know in the comments. And as always, if you have not subscribed already, please subscribe, like, comment, share the video. It really goes a long way, and I really do appreciate it. You can follow me on Twitter. Link will be in the description. I thank you all for watching. Talk to you on the next one. Take care.